Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Sarah, and here at A Window to the North I talk about all things related to traveling the world, nomad lifestyle and living abroad as an expat. So if these are topics that you feel relate to you and that you are interested in, please subscribe below and click the little notification bell. If this video gives you value, please consider giving me a thumbs up. Today I want to talk about a saying, which is that traveling changes one's life, traveling expands the horizon, traveling, made me a different person. There's so many iterations of this saying, but it is not often really clear how traveling actually does that. I myself have actually spent the majority of my life living in different places, and I thought maybe I'll just go into how in different life stages traveling has really actually made me the person that I am today. So today's video we will go and talk about how traveling or living abroad as a child has changed me and what my perspective was as that from a child's view. Maybe you are somebody who is planning to move abroad and has a family, has children, and wonders how this move will impact your children. My story is my mom worked as a pediatrician in development aid, and I am originally from Germany, and when I was 3 years old my mom decided that it was time for us to move abroad to Africa, where she was working in a hospital. So when I was 3 years old we moved to Ethiopia. Now, since I was 3 years old, I only have little minute memories of our time in Ethiopia. We stayed there for a year and then moved back, and then when I was 5 we moved to Nigeria for a couple of years, where I actually have a lot more memories of, and where I also attended the school system. Out of a child's perspective, I have to say that moving abroad as a child, I don't remember ever feeling sad or anxious about it. Maybe that was also my personality as a child. I mean, I have children too. They have completely different personalities from one another, and I could see how one would be more anxious than the other. But looking back, and also, I don't have any strong memories of moving abroad having caused me much anxiety, but looking back I also think that it really helped and shaped me in life, which is also the reason why from an early age on I took at least my oldest son on trips with me regularly. Then the pandemic hit, so my second son will actually go, the two kids and I will go on our first trip in a couple of weeks. But even though I did not remember maybe as much from my time in Ethiopia when I was 3, I still think, one always says that young childhood experiences shape a child's character, a child's perception of the world, and I strongly believe that to be true. I think that my bug for the nomad traveling's lifestyle has a lot to do with these experiences of different cultures and traveling. My openness to the world, my openness to other cultures, I'm sure comes also from having experienced how people live very differently and in some countries also very much less privileged than I did and grew up in Germany. And that is something that has really broadened my horizon. Another thing that was a huge benefit for me was that I practically grew up bilingual. Even though, like I said, I'm from Germany, so my first language is German. When we moved to Africa, and latest when I entered the school system in Nigeria the official language is English. So I learned the English language at a rather young age. And even though, there has been years in between where I haven't used it as frequently, when I then went back to German school, I think that when you learn a language at a very young age, even if you're not using it, it stays in the back of your mind. My 2 kids, for example, are raised bilingual right now. I speak German to my kid. Everyone else around us speaks Swedish to them. We live in Sweden. And even though once they entered kindergarten, they chose no longer to reply or respond to me in German, they understand every word. And whenever we actually travel to Germany, the older one also speaks German. So it's there, and I feel that this early exposure to another language has really shaped my language brain as well. I speak by now 4 languages, and I guess I'm in the lucky position that learning languages comes maybe easier to me than to others. And I think that the early exposure to languages has really helped with that forming the brain or the language center in that sense. Another very big part for me is that I experienced a totally different school system. When I started in Nigeria in first grade, I was 5.5. The Nigerian school system is miles apart from the German or any European school system that I got to visit later on. When we were in Nigeria, we were wearing school uniform. The classes were very strictly divided between, like, for example, gym classes. I grew up a wild child, a wild girl, playing mostly football with boys, soccer, football. And then we moved to Nigeria, and there the girls were taught needlecraft and the boys got to play soccer or football. And for me, this was an outrage because really I've never been the most either skilled, interested or patient when it comes to these kind of craftsmanships. And here I was in a culture where basically this was the requirement for me because of my gender. School uniforms, like I said, another one to create equality between the different income classes of the children, and to create a form of respect and, well, uniformity. And a big one back then, I do not know how it is now, but back then in Nigeria, so this was in the late 80s, early 90s, children were still hit in school. So that was an experience that definitely at that point was no longer part of the German school system. We would actually have to go if we, for example, were impolite, if our school uniform wasn't in order, if we made a mistake, things like that. We were required to go get our own switch from outside. Is that what you call it? A fresh, nice, fresh stick, and we would get beaten. So when I then moved back to Germany and for the first time actually attended a German school, the other kids thought I was hilarious. First of all, I was quite surprised that I wasn't, getting a beating for certain things, but also certain levels of respect and discipline that had been required in Nigeria were not part of the German school system. For example, to stand up from your chair whenever you were addressed, or to do a curtsy, things like that were not part of the German school system. Another really life-changing thing, without me being aware of it, is as a child, I don't think that in our innocent eyes and minds we fully comprehend the gravity of the situation that some people live in. I mean, so for me that meant because of this particular situation that my mom was a pediatrician working in development aid. By the way, she was a single mom, so I used to spend a lot of time with her after school at the hospital, and was exposed also to the degree of poverty that some families and children sadly are living in. But my innocent child and eyes did not fully comprehend that maybe, but it did definitely influence how I perceive and experience the world today, and how aware of privilege I am, and how grateful I am for all the comforts of my life. And I think that the deep-rooted seed for that has been planted in my childhood. So the reason why I'm saying this is that I think moving abroad or traveling long-term is a great mind opener for children. It's a great way to form open-minded, intelligent and tolerant children, and later grown-ups and human beings. And therefore I very much think that moving abroad, traveling with a child, is something that if you have the possibility and if you think about it, that you should do. I will, if you are insecure about the logistics, I will make a YouTube video about how I actually travel with my 2 kids by myself, just some tips and tricks, how airplanes, trains, activities and such. So if that is something that you are interested in, stay tuned. If you have other questions about this experience, or generally wish to share your experience, I'm always super excited to hear from other people and their experiences. Leave me a comment down below, and I hope I'll see you here soon. Bye bye.